The excitement in the air is always breathtaking in Italy. Last year's race was no exception.
Light is on and the Grand Prix of San Marino is off to a flying start with Ayrton Senna on the most. Going away, Kenny Rosberg drops back. The teammate of Ayrton Senna, De Angelis, comes alongside of them. Then the Ferrari of Alboreto comes in. Then Alan Prost is jumped up there.
Ayrton Senna and his JPS Lotus led early on, with Alan Prost trying every trick in the book to get past him.
He's trying to find a way past. Can he do it this time? He's driven past. He's going to do it this time. He's not going to do it because Senna's gone right up the inside again. As we said earlier, you cannot pass on the outside.
Then Stefan Johansson, in his very first season with Ferrari, had an opportunity of a lifetime. The Swede's dream was to be short-lived.
Stefan Johansson, who really had almost given up getting a drive in the early part of... Is he in trouble? He's in trouble. He's in trouble. Alan Prost has passed the Ferrari. He's run out of gas. The Ferrari has run out of gas in front of his Italian crowd. Stefan Johansson, as I said earlier, the fear was, would they be able to keep going?
With that, the crafty Prost, driving a well-balanced race, outlasted the field and took the checkered flag. He ran out of fuel on his cooling down lap. What a smile he must have had on his lips. The smile and the victory were to vanish into thin air. In post-race technical checks, the car was found by the officials to be below the minimum weight limit. Car and driver were disqualified. Elio De Angelis, who was never once to lead this Grand Prix, was declared the winner, and Terry Boutsen was to be rewarded with second place after pushing his car dry of fuel over the finishing line. Hello, I'm Jackie Stewart. This is Imola 1986. Now, if you think that that was an exciting race that you've just seen footage of from last year, hang around, because in fact this year the cars, because of a new regulation, are going to cover in fact the same distance with less fuel. So the problem of fuel consumption is going to be even greater for this year. Historically, Imola has always presented an enormous problem to the engineers on fuel consumption. It's a racetrack that goes uphill and downdale, a lot of gear changes, a lot of hard acceleration, and with these turbo-powered plants that they have today, fuel consumption is the major story. But there's a lot of other stories here at Imola that we'll cover after this next commercial. This pre-race report is being brought to you by Ford and the Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford Grand Prix of San Marino? Part of the glamour of Grand Prix motor racing is its global appeal, the fact that the circuit more or less touches every continent. But apart from that, there's the other factor, that the multinational companies see it so important to become involved in this sport. And for me, it's interesting that most of the large car manufacturers are taking a very close look at Grand Prix. Now, for example, it's engines right down on that starting grid right now. Some of the biggest companies are represented. People like Renault, BMW, Honda, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari with Fiat, and the TAG Porsche engine. Now, these are big companies with big interests. But there's a new arrival, and John Bisignano is down there with that new one.
Well, Jackie, of course, it's the return of Ford to Formula One. That is another big story here at Imola. Now, historically, Ford has the best race record of any manufacturer of motors in the history of Formula One. They started in 1967 at the Dutch Grand Prix. After that, they entered some 259 races, scoring victories in 60% of the events entered. That's a fantastic record and is twice as many victories as Ferrari scored. During that same period of time, they nailed 155 pole positions. It was in the mid-'80s that the turbocharged engines came out, 1,000 horsepower out of 1,500 cc's, and they really pushed Ford to the back of the grid. The last race for the Ford engine was in 1985 at the Austrian Grand Prix. Since that period of time, they have not been in Formula One until now. This is their new entry. Again, 1,500 cc's. They won't tell us the exact horsepower, but it's at least over 800. It's a V6 with a 120-degree configuration. The engine is very flat, again, trying to get a low profile for the back end of the car. This is very important for the handling and the aerodynamics to the rear wing. It's good to have Ford back, and we hope that very soon they will be back in the victory circle.
Thank you, John. Well, the Ford is not on pole position as it was when it first came into racing in 1967. That was pretty remarkable at the Dutch Grand Prix. But it will be doing, I think, very well in the future. Let's hope so for everyone's sake. Now, we'll be right back for more of the San Marino Grand Prix right after this. This pre-race report has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? The commentary position for this San Marino Grand Prix once again is John Bisignano. Now, John, we've had a lot of stories here at Imola, but there's something more than fuel, isn't there?
Yes, Jackie. Of course, tires is a factor in every race. I was talking to Lee Gogg of Goodyear, and here at Imola, there's a phenomena that they call grading. With the very fast left-hand bends, this rolls all the rubber off, especially the right rear tire, rolls it right off the tire and balls it up and leaves it on the track. Now, all the teams are planning to change tires once. If they have a bad situation with grading on that right rear, they'll have to stop twice, and that virtually ends their race, Jackie.
Okay, so it could be fuel, it could be tires, but, you know, in the first two Grand Prix, of course, that we have covered here in ESPN, we've had what we call the Magnificent Five. We've had Ayrton Senna up there. We've had Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell. Then we've had Alain Prost and, of course, his own teammate, Keke Rosberg. But interrupting that domination, that five in this practice here in qualifying, has been Michele Alboreto, of course, driving for Ferrari. Now, it's a long time since Ferrari won a Grand Prix, and it's a long time since they won a World Championship with an Italian driver. I think that could perhaps show a little bit here, maybe a little extra effort in front of an Italian crowd.
It's the only way it can be for Ferrari. This and Monza are the two most important races of the year. And in talking to Michele, he says, well, the extra pressure really doesn't get to him, which you can tell he's trying especially hard for everyone from Enzo Ferrari to a couple 100,000 fans here around the circuit.
Right, now let's have a look at that starting grid for this race. On pole position, Ayrton Senna from Brazil and the JPS Lotus. Yet another pole position for Senna. Brazilian Nelson Piquet is second fastest. His teammate Nigel Mansell from England is third fastest. Then the reigning world champion Alain Prost, fourth fastest. With the darling of Italy for the time being, Michele Alboreto, fifth fastest. Keke Rosberg from Finland is sixth. Stefan Johansson in the other Ferrari from Sweden is seventh. René Arnoux, the ex-Ferrari driver, in eighth position. And in ninth position, Gerhard Berger from Austria. That's a fast starting position for Berger. His teammate, Theo Fabi, also an Italian, makes up the top 10. Following that comes in Patrick Tambay, Terry Boutsen in the Arrows, Martin Brundle, Jacques Lafitte, Mark Surer, Patrese, Dumfries, Nannini, De Angelis, Palmer, Alan Jones with the Ford engine car and 21st fastest time, Streff, De Cesaris, Rothengat making his first Grand Prix appearance this year, Christian Danner, and Genzani brings up the tail end of the field. We'll be right back for the start of the race. The San Marino Grand Prix is being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by BF Goodrich TA radios, built for you to take on the road.
Engines have started, they're on the grid. You see the plan of the racetrack as the cars pull away on this warm-up lap. As you see the cars going around there, they're heading towards a corner they call the Tamburello. It's a very fast, long left-hand bend. It's taken in sixth gear, very fast race. You can see the coloration of the track here is cars around. They're heading up towards an area where they'll be doing around 200 miles an hour before they start braking for the Villeneuve corner, and that's the corner you're looking at right now, named after Gilles Villeneuve, the young Canadian racing driver who lost his life. Then they get to the Tosca. This is a second gear hairpin bend, a left-hander with a sharp incline going up the hill. There, they're accelerating up in second through fourth, fifth, and sixth gear before a long left-hand corner. And that left-hand corner, they start to break down into third gear. And they'll get into there the Paratella, which is a fairly hard left-hand bend. Again, they accelerate out of there, getting through there in third, fourth, and fifth gear before getting to the first chicane. They call it Aqua Minerale. So they go through the Aqua Minerale and then accelerate through a right-hand bend there. Going up that hill, by now they're back into fifth gear before they head down towards the top chicane. They're talking about it being called Alta, naturally, here in Italy. So it's the top chicane as they go through that. And head down after that top chicane, down to one of the fast sections of the racetrack. And that there comes in to... it's a very difficult section, the track under braking here. It's the Riviera as they go through there. This is long, and this is taken, third gear, fourth gear as they accelerate out of there. And now go into one of the faster sections again. It's much faster than anticipated as they go through here. They're going through that section in fourth gear. Accelerate out, go straight from fourth to second as you see the cars warming up their tyres. That was Patrick Tamby, and they finally get to the Bassa chicane, the bottom chicane, the lowest part on the racetrack. Now the conditions here, as you can see, are reasonably good at the present time. It's 65 degrees. The winds are very mild. They're only 10 miles an hour. The wind is coming from the north, partly sunny. It comes a little bit. There's a 50% chance of rain, however. Just a little while ago, we had, in fact, spots of rain, which nobody liked, but it's what they call a dry race. Ayrton Senna on the bottom right-hand side there. You can see that as the signboards go up, Moti Chandon's name on them to show the drivers where they must stop. You will see shortly the lights going on there, John, as they get under starters' orders.
Yes, Jack, I think we should very quickly say that there were some troubles on the warm-up lap. Brundle is in the T car. Then there has been a wing change. You see up in your left-hand corner of the screen there that the starting lights have not come on yet. Also, Jonathan Palmer has actually pulled off the grid and is sitting in the pit lane.
Now, he cannot leave the pit lane as they go under starters' orders. Still, all the cars have passed him. The engines are revving to about 8,500 revs. The green light, the Ferrari gets away very well. He nearly got away very well. I think he'll be fast, but Ayrton Senna's in the lead. And there you see behind him, I think that there is Piquet behind him. Then you have Alain Prost, the Ferrari trying to find a way past there. You can see Mansell, and the Ferrari's in fact been passed by Keke Rosberg, is holding a tight line through there. Keke Rosberg is past Nigel Mansell. The Ferrari has gone alongside, that's Alboreto. They seem to be fairly clean, and somebody's in there. That's the Minardi is in there. Number 24, that's very sad for him. Right at the beginning of the race, that's Nannini, who'd shown great progress. He had gone well in practice. Nannini had done well, disappointed, and that's, of course, a first lap incident almost in the first stiff corner. They're up at the high chicane, John.
Yep, it's actually too bad for Nannini. He actually out-qualified his teammate that has quite a bit more race experience than he does. So Nannini showed that he's still a bit of a rookie, but here comes the field coming through the upper chicane and down the hill. It's certainly the Williams pulling away from Senna. For the first lap, it has been quite clean, but the Williams is definitely... Piquet is definitely pulling away from Senna, something we haven't seen anyone do so far this year, Jackie.
Well, Senna, of course, has been in pole position with regularity, almost boring regularity for the rest of the teams. Incidentally, I thought I saw a little smoke coming out from behind one of these McLarens as they came through. I think it was Alain Prost's car. Whether it was just on the overrun that the smoke was puffing out, I don't know, but I did see it. So the end of that first lap, there you see Nelson Piquet in the Williams car with the Honda engine. Great enthusiasm enthusiasm here, greatly partisan crowd. About 200,000 people have turned out here in Imola. Very impressive crowd, and look at the lead this man has on this, the second lap.
Now, in Brazil, of course, Piquet is the winner of the first Grand Prix down in Rio this year, and he said, Jackie, that was the easiest win of his entire career, and he has had quite a career and many wins to choose from. But it is certainly tightening up in the corner with the back markers there. You can see the Beatrice car, the Haas Lola car coming through there very close. Patrick Tambay actually had to change a plug lead on the grid, so it seems like they got that car running fairly well.
It seems to me that Keke Rosberg's putting a little heat on his teammate Alain Prost. That'll be interesting to see what happens. There's Michele Alboreto and the Ferrari. That's second, third, and fourth you're looking at right there as they go through there. So there's Nelson Piquet, very cleanly taking advantage. I think Senna's going to be under pressure from Prost as his own teammate presses him on. I think this is, of course, something. It's a fuel consumption race, as we explained in the pre-race stuff that we produced for you. It has to be a very light throttle. The fuel consumption for this race has got to be delicately handled.
Of course, Jackie, you were talking about the fuel consumption. Nelson Piquet, at the end of the race in Spain, had, well, the stories vary, between 14 and 17 liters left in the car, where Ayrton Senna only had 1.5 liters left in the car. But the McLarens are pulling up on Senna, coming through this sweeping right left-hander first corner, and you can see Prost is setting him up. Senna can certainly pull away a bit. The McLarens have felt that their advantage is under handling and under braking. And is Prost, he's having a look, but no. And you can see the cars slamming down on the track there. That's because they're full of fuel and the suspension is quite soft. That's the popular way to set these cars up at the moment. And there goes the train. That's second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth going up the hill.
So there is the man in second. Then Alain Prost is third. Keke Rosberg is fourth. Nigel Mansell is fifth. Senna seems to have taken a little advantage there. He's not a man prone to make many mistakes. He's not using all the road, as you can see. It may be that the McLarens feel that they have a little extra horsepower to use and therefore a little more fuel. You can see the car that's bottoming out most is the John Player's Lotus of Ayrton Senna in the bright yellow crash helmet. And it's here, of course, that Prost seems to be closing up most. It's interesting, the two techniques of driving between Alain Prost and his teammate Keke Rosberg. Rosberg has been using apparently a little more tire. In other words, he's been scrubbing his tires. There is Michele Alboreto. He's jumped himself up into fifth place. And Mansell has dropped back because René Arnoux put himself into sixth, and Mansell is now down into seventh position.
And of course, René Arnoux is going to be trying very hard. He was actually fired by Ferrari last year, and that's when Stefan Johansson got his great chance here at this Grand Prix and actually led at the Grand Prix here last year. But you can always know that when you put a Ferrari in front of Arnoux, that's certainly going to give him some extra enthusiasm. But the battle here is going on with Prost, up alongside and through, right through on the inside. Very touchy, and Senna wants it back, but gets the door shut on him, and Keke Rosberg's having to run at him up the hill. You can see the tag power coming down onto the surface, pulling out of that corner perfectly. That's what we call putting the power down. The Goodyear tire is sticking perfectly. I got to believe, Jackie, do you think, and in the pits we have, it must be Nigel Mansell.
Yeah, Mansell's come into the pits. You saw him dropping back there. I had said he had gone back into seventh position. And now I think you'll see the two tag McLaren cars pulling away from Ayrton Senna. Now, Ayrton Senna has to be very mature about this. He cannot get excited and use more gas, more boost in the turbo. He must be able to recognize that his most important element here is fuel consumption. Now, that is something that he can't get away from. The McLarens have the problem also. We've all got to look out for it. So Ayrton Senna is in second and third and fourth place in back. This is Jackie Stewart and John Bisignano. We're back at the Grand Prix of San Marino. You're looking at the cars in second and third place, and while we were in commercial, Keke Rosberg has passed his world champion teammate, Alain Prost, and has now put himself into second place, and in fact seems to be drawing away just a wee bit. Ayrton Senna has got himself into fourth place as we had left for the commercial. Michele Alboreto, driving the Ferrari in front of his, of course, very partisan Italian fans, is in fifth position. Nigel Mansell has been in the pits, as we reported. Nannini went off on the first corner without any injury, just went into the sandbank. And there you see René Arnoux, who brings the Ligier with the Renault engine up, followed by the next Ferrari, and of course that's Stefan Johansson, with Fabi up behind him. And there you see Jacques Lafitte in behind one of the Brabhams. That's quite interesting. A Brabham's got itself that far up, and the Ford engine isn't doing too badly. It's, of course, its very first race, as we explained at the opening of this show. Alan Jones, the Australian, driving the Ford engine car, entered by Carl Haas, the American team. Look at the fans looking for the Ferrari.
You can always tell where the Ferraris are on the circuit here, Jackie, because the fans' heads and their standing or sitting will let you know where they are all the way around the circuit. It's like the Detroit Wave. When the Ferraris come by, you see all the stands filling up and down with cheers and they're trying to cheer these two red cars onto victory. The Italians must feel that they have to have a part of every Ferrari victory, but it's going to be a tough run here for both Michele Alboreto and for Stefan Johansson.
Let's just look at the top 10 right now. We have Nelson Piquet leading. We have Keke Rosberg in second place. Alain Prost in third. Ayrton Senna from Brazil in fourth. Alboreto from Italy in fifth. René Arnoux of France is in sixth. Stefan Johansson from Sweden is seventh. Gio Fabi of Italy is eighth. Patrick Tambay, he's driving the Hart-engined Haas-entered car, is ninth. And then you have Berger in 10th position. Gerhard Berger, one of the drivers who we see possible to do well this season, I think could be quite impressive. And he's doing fairly well, and he's the first BMW engine car that we've got quite a few up there. And look at this. That's Stefan Johansson being passed
like
there
by going in there on the
with
inside.
Berger right behind him.
And Stefan is not one that likes to be passed, and of course he's looking for a way back in. When they cut on the inside, and in the pits we have Danner, the German driver with the Osella. Sad to see him in there. He's been doing very well so far this season. Also, one quick thing is that Keke Rosberg was the fastest driver in the morning warm-up, where they are on full tanks as in race conditions. So Keke Rosberg now, not pulling away from his teammate, but certainly doing well on the track, is also showing that he can not certainly lead his teammate very easily, and we have one of the Beatrice cars in the pit. And we can't see if it is the Ford. I think it was Tambay getting out of that, which would have made it the Hart-powered car, not the Ford-powered car. But Keke Rosberg definitely doing well here in the early laps of San Marino.
Well, this battle between Rosberg and Prost, in fact, is something that's always exciting when you see two teammates doing something like this. Ayrton Senna's not taking the pressure off them very much. It's interesting that in qualifying, Keke Rosberg's car was 6 miles an hour faster on the straight stretch that he's just come through than Alain Prost's car. Prost had more aerodynamic aids pressing the car down on the road, and therefore was just a wee bit slower. But it's always confusing when two teammates are racing like this. John Bizignana had the opportunity to speak to Alain Prost about just that.
How are you and Keke getting along as teammates?
It's okay. I think, it's, I have always said that it's going to be very difficult to get the same relationship than I had with Nicky. But he's quite good, he's quite quick, he got a big motivation, and he pushed me very hard, so it's good for the team anyway.
Okay, we're back again in San Marino. You're looking at the battle there for second and third place, with the fourth place car just coming into sight now. That's Ayrton Senna with the Renault engined car, the GPS. Then Michele Alboreto, who's not letting them out of sight. He was the fastest car on the straight stretch, incidentally, during qualifying. He just topped 200 miles an hour, in fact almost 201 miles an hour, which is no small speed. This is the final corner coming onto the front straight. The risk that Keke Rosberg is running here is overheating his tires. His tire performance, which definitely went off in Spain, was the reason for his demise with regard to being hotly competitive with Alain Prost. Alain Prost, and there's the Zach Speed West car of Jonathan Palmer that started late. As we saw him at the beginning of the race, he was in the pit lane, short-lived, looked like an engine problem, probably a turbo, but he certainly has had to stop, pulling off to safety on the left-hand side of the racetrack here. So that's the German-entered Zach Speed car pulling off, and that will be the end of his day.
Too bad. Zach Speed is actually entered 2 cars here. The Dutch driver Hoop Rottengatter is back, driving the second stack speed. And Hoop is a very good driver who's finally got the money together to be able to pledge it towards the West effort. And in the pits, we have Johnny Dumfries, the Earl of Dumfries in the John Player Special. They are changing his tires. That's a bit early for just a tire change, Jackie. He must have something else going on.
Yes, I think so. We were expecting a tire change with the Goodyear runners between 20 and 25 laps. So that certainly is not a scheduled pit stop for him. I expect he's got other problems, but while he's in the pits, they're obviously taking the advantage to change rubber. That's logical.
You know, Jackie, here we have the front-running cars, one Lotus and one Williams, yet their teammates are both in the pits. Do you think when they know that one of their teammates has had a mechanical problem, does the driver worry about that when he's out on the circuit and doing well, that his car may have a same type of ailment?
Not really. A driver is so locked into what's going on, and he would not be told. Nigel Mansell being in the pits, probably Nelson Piquet does not know that. It's information which is of no benefit to Nelson Piquet. There you see the leaderboard up, of course, the Italian television giving us Piquet, Prost, Rosberg, Prost, Senna, Alboreto, and Arnoux. So I don't think the drivers worry too much about that. Obviously, if it were close to the end of the race, he would be asking, I wonder what went wrong. But it wouldn't be at this stage of interest to him for the pit to disturb his mind by giving him that kind of information.
Well, here, this is the battle for second and third place. 3 cars battling it out, 2 teammates, and they're coming on the inside is Jack Lafitte with the Ligier going around Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari. Stefan has not been able to match his teammate speed of Michele Alboreto all weekend long. Stefan still suffering from brake problems, and we certainly don't want that to happen on this high-speed circuit. It's a bad place to have brake problems.
Well, it's quite heavy on brakes, in fact. This with the 8 right-hand corners and 12 left-hand corners, 20 in all. We're at San Marino, and we'll be back after this.
The fever for this symbol in Italy is something quite unbelievable. The Italian fever for motorsport is now well recognized around the world. The man who owns that prancing horse logo is unquestionably a hero in this land. In fact, many people would say the 2 most important names in Italy would be the Pope and Ferrari, not necessarily in that order. The national color of Italy in racing is, of course, red. So when you come to Italy, you always wear red. But one man that's not at this race is that living legend, Mr. Enzo Ferrari, 88 years of age, a remarkable man, and a man who's built motor cars for a very long time, since 1946. It was in his second race that he was able to bring the name of Ferrari into Victory Circle. But the history of Enzo Ferrari is unending. He started racing in 1919. And he raced at that time for a small Italian company, starting off in hill climbs. He then went in 1920 and raced through 1931 for Alfa Romeo. And at that time, they took him on, not as a driver after that, but as a team manager. He became president of Scuderia Ferrari with Alfa Romeo cars. He then became the team manager of Alfa Romeo themselves. And then from 1938 to 1940, they raced a team called Corsa Alfa, which he was team manager of also. But he was getting so competitive that they in fact took away the opportunity for him to race or construct cars, and it was only the war that broke that spell. It was then after the war that he started to create magic. He won his first world championship in 1952 with Alberto Ascari. Since then, the names are endless. Fangio, Hawthorne, Surtees, Lauda, Scheckter, all drove for Ferrari and all won world championships. He's won Le Mans 9 times. This man has created incredible cars. I've never had the opportunity of driving a Grand Prix Ferrari. I drove for Ferrari once in a sports cars race to help them win the world championship, but never did drive in Grand Prix. Mr. Ferrari, at 88 years of age, has a great record. The only sadness in his life is his son Dino died of leukemia in 1956. And since that day, he has never come to a Grand Prix. The last time he was ever at an official event was in 1980 at this last Grand Prix, he came for practice. Since then, he stays in Maranello, only 50 miles from here, but never comes to a race. A remarkable living legend.
Well, one man I didn't mention in that piece that, of course, drove for Ferrari and won the World Championship with Ferrari was the great Phil Hill, who in 1961 captured the World Championship for Mr. Ferrari. And, of course, Mario Andretti, who I hope will be watching our coverage on ESPN right now somewhere in America, he, of course, had a great lot of success with Ferrari. They make about 3,200 road cars every year, and about 48% of those road cars, as Jacques Lafitte goes out the pit incidentally, he was a leader. He could just be in for a standard tire business there. That was it. René Arnoux in the pits. But anyway, about 48% of the Ferrari production of road cars goes to the US. The US market important to them. And the other thing is that, of course, they went to Indy in 52 and are coming back. In 1987, they're going to be back at the Indy 500. Now, we've had a few changes since we've been away. This man, Alain Prost, is still in third position. He's following Keke Rosberg. In first position in the lead is still Nelson Piquet. But I have to tell you, you Brazilian fans, Ayrton Senna is out of the race. He had a problem, so he is out of the race. That's a big disappointment for the John Player Lotus team. Johnny Dumfries has had trouble also. It looked like Senna may have had some sort of rear suspension failure because there was a great deal of smoke coming from the right rear wheel. And that, in fact, could be a situation that meant that something was rubbing against that rear tire. We're still trying to get confirmation from Peter Ward, the team manager. That still hasn't come up to us. Michele Alboreto now is in fourth position in front of his Italian crowd, and of course that, as you know, is a big important element for Ferrari. They haven't won a World Championship since 1953 with an Italian driver, and that was, of course, the great Umberto Ascari.
Well, Jackie, when the Lotus did come in the pits there, you saw the mechanics working on, as you say, the right rear, and they were actually able to move the right rear tire. Here we have Jacques Lafitte back in the pits with his Ligier. They were able to move that right rear tire without actually undoing the nut that holds it on. So it does definitely look like a suspension failure, which is unusual for Lotus, but we do have confirmation now that it was a suspension problem, but that is very unusual for Lotus. But if you see these red and white curves, the cars have been banging up against these curves, especially the right rear, and after so many of them, you can certainly cause a crack that goes on to its happy demise as a full break and ends. The current leader of the World Championship with 15 points, Ayrton Senna, will not be adding any points to his current lead this weekend.
Well, Nelson Piquet has only about a 6-second lead we had just a little while ago, and you can see that Keke Rosberg very much is in the picture now. I think that Nelson Piquet has backed off a little bit. It's interesting that this Honda Power, they're looking for using in US gallons about 3.73 miles per gallon to complete this race. That's what they have to do to complete the race. If they use more gas than that, if the fuel consumption figure is any lower than that, they're not going to make the finish of this course. Now, of course, we know that last year was the biggest problem. Fuel consumption is a major issue, so everybody's got to be very gentle with the gas pedal. And when you're producing, as Nelson Piquet is now close to about 900 brake horsepower, you've got to be very gentle indeed.
Speaking of being gentle, of course, in the pits we have the Olivetti car. That's the Brabham car. Elio De Angelis has not been happy with the car all season long. Strange enough, it was designed to be fast down the straights, and it hasn't worked out. It has an acceleration problem. It's very quick during the cornering aspects of every track, but down the straightaway it has not worked the way the designer Gordon Murray thought it would.
Well, in fact, he's only done about 195 miles an hour in comparison with the 200 miles an hour of Alboreto. We're at the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, and we'll be right back after this message. Come back to you as Alain Prost is in the pits. The tire change is being done, and they're pulling out at 8.62 seconds. That's fast. That's faster than Ferrari. It's a lot faster than Nelson Piquet had, and his teammate is still out on the racetrack, and I can see a black groove around his tire where it's been scrubbing, and therefore Keke Rosberg will be looking to come into the pits very shortly indeed. So therefore it will be a question of whether Alain Prost, because of his faster pit stop, will be able to take that lead. Probably not, because of course Berger has not been in the pits yet, but Alboreto has, although Alboreto's pit stop was very fast. There's De Cesaris being interviewed by the Italians. I don't think you'll be able to hear that, but there is our leader. So Rosberg, Prost and Piquet are our leaders.
Jackie, the gentleman that we've been saying has abusing his tires the most is actually the one staying out there the longest, and he definitely does have, you can see it clearly on the right rear, where this grading problem, indicative to this particular track, has certainly, does he come in? No, he's doing another lap.
Now this means that this will slow him down. It will certainly slow him down as he goes round here. Keep in mind that he has a lap on Alboreto, as I understand it. I think they lapped Alboreto, and he's now coming up behind him, so it'll be interesting to see if he can regain that lap while they were in the pit.
It didn't show it on our screen, but actually Berger has also been in the pits, and he was doing very well in the top six. The Ferrari they went around earlier was that of Stefan Johansson, who's definitely having some type of mechanical problem. Again, he's been complaining about a brake problem, one of the worst tracks to have a brake problem. Well, so all season long he's been complaining about his brakes, and in Spain it caused quite an accident.
Well, you know, when you have brake troubles, it really does make a driver nervous. One doesn't want to do anything very vicious going into a corner. We're following Alain Prost, incidentally, who, of course, is the reigning world champion. Very smooth, very gentle. Nelson Piquet was in our picture there as Alain Prost, lying in second place in a new set of tires, is doing well. Prost looking, of course, for yet another victory. He's Mr. Calm when it comes to this. We'll be right back at Imola in just a moment. What's wrong with the front tire there? You see a white strip round it. He's either picked something up on the way in, but it's Keke Rosberg who has been our leader. The mechanics raising their arms to say that they're ready. Their left rear is a problem. The time is clicking by. This is not a good pit stop. It's 14.8 seconds. Ironically, both McLarens, went in and out. They're the same crew almost, but there's a hell of a difference with regards to the time that they stopped. So Alain Prost is now our leader. So there is Alain Prost leading yet another Grand Prix. He's won 21 of them. He's looking to beat my title, and he has incidentally done the fastest lap at 129.882 miles per hour, or seconds that is, 1 minute 29 seconds, which is a new lap record for Alain Prost. The big question is fuel consumption. Remember, he won on the road last year, and when the car was weighed at the finish, he was disqualified, so he was robbed of that victory, if you like, but regulations are regulations, and it was below the minimum weight permissible. Alain Prost come up through the ranks of Formula Ford and Formula 3. Incidentally, my colleague in the commentary position today, John Bizignano, held the lap record here at Imola in a Formula 3 car. No mean task, Mr. Bizignano.
I had Brambilla chasing me, and he scared me so much that I had to stay in front of him.
Well, I don't blame you for that. The hairy Brambilla gorilla, they called him. Here in front of his local crowd, I would imagine a poor little American going through great pain.
Brambilla won the Swedish Grand Prix in a March car and actually crashed on the cool-off lap. Unfortunately, he was so overwhelmed by winning his one and only Grand Prix that his concentration went down a bit on the cool-off lap and totally wrote off the entire car trying to get back to the winner's circle.
Well, incidentally, Arno has passed Berger, so that's something. Now, listen, tires are a big thing, and we were able to do something John Bizignano did on tires before the race.
A Formula One one tire cannot produce grip unless it's warm. The rubber must be heated up before the tire can make a good contact with the surface of the road. Kenny Szymanski from actually Manhattan is one of the few Americans on the Formula One circuit, and his responsibility is to take care of Team Lotus's tires. Kenny, what kind of temperatures do these tire blankets help the tire get up to before it goes onto the circuit?
We try to get them up to about 180 Fahrenheit. So when we get them on the circuit, they're up to about 220, 230. That's a good running temperature.
Can the driver actually notice the difference between a 180 tire and a 230 tire or 220 tire?
Oh, definitely, especially when he's just going out, because it takes him a few minutes to get his grip together. And as the tires only last for a lap, it's really important you have them warmed up as soon as possible.
Well, Ayrton Senna has been on pole position for the 2 Grand Prix so far this year. And part of the help that allows him to do that is Kenny Szymanski and the tire blanket.
In the Williams pit, when the 2 Williams cars came in for their pit stops, you actually saw the tires sitting in the background with these heating blankets on them at that time. So they aren't only used for qualifying, but they are certainly used all throughout the race whenever a tire change is expected.
Incidentally, the dots you're seeing on the plan of the racetrack is a new computer that Olivetti have got here, and it shows where the cars are on the racetrack. The first 4 dots were in fact the cars themselves, all on the same lap. So you can see that Prost, Rosberg, Piquet and Alboreto are not so far apart from each other. So that's pretty impressive. Rene Arnoux is up into 5th position. Patrese is 6th. Berger's dropped back down to 7th position. Fabi is up to 8th. And Johansson is 9th, and making up the top 10 is Terry Boots. So it's really quite a little battle up there, with fuel consumption still very much in mind. Remember, the World Championship standings before the beginning of this race, and sadly that will have changed. Ayrton Senna had 15 points, Nelson Piquet 9 points, Nigel Mansell 6, Lafitte 4, and Alain Prost 4. Right now he would pick up 9 points if he were to go on and lead this race to the end, but of course keep in mind that Ayrton Senna has dropped out of the race, so this could be serious with regards to the World Championship. Of course, this is only the 3rd race of this season, so there's a long way to go.
For the last couple of years, the World Championship has been very exciting, normally coming down, if not the last race, to the second to the last race. Of course, Prost always being the bridesmaid in the 2 previous seasons before last year when he became world champion, and finally went ahead a very deserving victory in Brands Hatch that finally gave him the mathematical position of gaining the championship.
Let's go round with Alain Prost round this racetrack with his gear changes. He's now in 2nd gear. Now that's Keke as it so happens, but he's using the same gears. Into 3rd, into 4th. He'll be into 5th gear right now. He's down into 3rd gear for there. Accelerating away from 2nd to 3rd actually. Getting up to 4th gear again. Into 5th gear. He'll be down into 2nd gear for this very tight chicane. This is the top chicane. Into 3rd gear, accelerating away. Into 4th gear. He'll be into 5th gear as he rides that crest there. Now he's braking hard. Into 2nd gear again. Accelerating along there. And he's very tight with that Ferrari. Very tight.
Stefan being lapped once doesn't like to be lapped twice.
They're now coming round where they'll be back into 2nd gear now, accelerating hard in 2nd, in 3rd, in 4th, into 5th, just into 6th gear now, and he's going to overtake. Now the Ferrari's a faster car, so Stefan must have let him through, which is rather gentlemanly. Doing now close to 200 miles an hour. It doesn't look like it. And there's the 2 Benetton cars, nose to tail.
Berger is doing an excellent job this season. One of the new young lions came onto the Formula One circuit last year as Christian Danner in the Osella has to call the day. These cars are sponsored by the Benetton Clothing Company, which is very popular here in Europe and, as I understand it, opening shops all over the United States. Benetton actually bought the team, Jackie. The sponsor bought the Coleman team last year, and these are also the first Pirelli-shod cars as far as the standings go. Yes, that is correct. They are the first Pirelli cars that are following several Goodyear-shod cars.
Well, it's Fabi that's ahead on the road right at this moment, and there you see Christian Danner walking back. unbuckling his crash helmet. Tall young man, well over 6 feet, one of the tallest race drivers in the business. I thought you had to be a man of average height, about my height and your height, John, like 5'6" or whatever it is, to be a real good racing driver, but he's trying to prove everybody wrong. We're at the San Marino Grand Prix. It's in Imola, in Italy. The weather is fine, and we'll be right back. This is Jackie Stewart along with John Bisignano. We've just completed a little more than halfway mark through this San Marino Grand Prix. Let me give you the top 6. Position is Alain Prost in number 1. Second is Keke Rosberg. In third position, some 21.6 seconds behind Prost, is Nelson Piquet. Michele Alboreto is in 4th. René Arnoux from France is in 5th place. And topping off the World Championship points factor is Riccardo Patrese driving the Olivetti BMW engine Brabham, which is the first time that this car has shown any real competitive personality this year. So that's good for Brabham.
To talk in engine terms on those top 6, we have tag in first and second. The Honda, Ferrari next, very powerful motor, Renault, and BMW. So out of the top 6, we have 5 different engine makers being represented, which is very good, especially with the turbocharging. There was a lot of criticism when it first came in that there would not be close racing. So far this year, we have seen something relative to the old train effect of the Cosworth days, where everyone was so evenly matched. The beautiful red Ferrari of Michele Alboreto going around there, and Jackie, turbocharged engines for 5 different engines to be in the top 6 certainly shows that there has been a great improvement.
Well, considering
the technology here.
Considering the fact there's only 7 manufacturers up there, Alfa Romeo and Ford being the new arrival makes up the 7. So that, in fact, is really quite impressive. And there's the Ford engine cars right now being passed by Alboreto. It's been in the pit. Alan Jones's car was in the pit and has now gone back out to get some more miles on the clock. The gap between Alain Prost and Keke Rosberg, incidentally, is 8.5 seconds, with about 22 seconds between Prost and the third man, Nelson Piquet. The tag Porsche engines have been doing very well, and here's Berger just passes. Oh, I think it seems to me that Fabi's engine's just given out, or he missed a gear change, because those are BMW engine cars there that Benetton have, and he has just pulled away very clearly, so he brings himself up into 7th position by that move. Whether his teammate Theo Fabi is in trouble, it rather looks like it, but there's Gerhard Berger, young Austrian, very promising with the very avant-garde paint job that Benetton have. In the meantime, there be Alain Prost, coolly driving around here in the lead. The McLaren team have done so well. Marlboro sponsored them very heavily. Prost has still done the fastest lap of the race, a new lap of 29.464 seconds.
That's his 3rd time breaking the lap record, Jackie.
The American connection there is that the wife of the co-owner and the president of that company is an American, Lisa, because her husband, who runs this in a very tight and fancy fashion, Ron...
Bobby in the pits.
It's Fabi with that problem, yeah. Ron Dennis is the team manager and president of the company, and Lisa, whose parents live in California, always switch on her ESPN to see how the in-laws are doing, so to speak. And of course, Mansur Ogi's wife, Kathy, her parents are in California, so there's a strong American connection.
American women have done better in Formula One than American drivers have, Jackie, you know?
Phil Hill and Mario Andretti might not like you saying that, John, but you're probably right. Now, there's one being wheeled away. That didn't look too good. That was, in fact, that was the car of Theo Fabi. It's been wheeled into the garage area. And there again, through the Curva Bassa, the bottom chicane, comes Alain Prost. Very cool, very calculated. And there is the Dr. Jonathan Palmer, has a doctor's degree. Right now, he should get his stethoscope out on the engine, because I'm afraid it's missing a few beats.
You have to give Zach Speed a lot of credit. They are the only team besides Ferrari who make the chassis, gearbox, and engine. It's a straight 4. The 1500cc, developing certainly over 800 horsepower, but out of that one German shop, they are doing with 40 people what Ferrari does with 215 people. You certainly have have to give them and their sponsor, West, an awful lot of credit.
Yeah, I think it's very nice to see the West team doing so well at the Grand Prix. And it's sad that it seems both of their cars have come out of this one, but they do deserve a bit of success, but by Jove, they do work hard for it. Michele Alboreto, a man who was with the Tyrrell team and his Formula One arrival, I reckon him very highly. I still think he could get on the winner's rostrum today. He's presently in fourth. He has to pass somebody, or somebody has to drop out before that can apply, but it would be rather nice here, so close to the Commendatore, because there you see the car of, who's that? That is Ghinzani in the pits. He was in maybe for a scheduled pit stop for tires, who knows. But the Commendatore, 88 years of age, as I said, if you were watching the show right at the top, he really is a living legend, and he lives only about 50 miles away from here. This is the last Grand Prix track that he has attended. He came here for practice in 1980. He doesn't go to the races, as we now look at Nelson Piquet running over some curbs. It's not his practice normally, and it seems to me that he's under pressure now from Alboreto. It seems that Alboreto has a chance of catching Nelson Piquet. That could be dramatic here, and the reason for this is that fuel consumption in the cockpit readout of Piquet's car tells him that he's got to back off. He's got to conserve fuel. Now, we saw what happened last year. It could easily happen that this whole race could change its pattern, so for goodness sake, don't leave us. We're going to see an exciting end to this race, I'm almost sure. We're at San Marino. John Mizignano with Jackie Stewart, and we'll be right back. The San Marino Grand Prix, but let me tell you about Auto Racing 86, the NASCAR Winston 500 on Sunday, May the 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time, live on ESPN. It will be from the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Talladega to most of the fans, the world's fastest speedway. The race is worth over $500,000 to the top 5 finishers, who will include, by the way, last year's winner, champion Bill Elliott. And, of course, Dale Earnhardt, the man atop the Winston Cup point standings at this time, with 2 consecutive NASCAR victories to his credit, including the Trans-South 500 and the first Union Bank 400. See the excitement live on ESPN on May the 14th. And here you see the battle right here in San Marino, at least at Imola, the racetrack for this Grand Prix, between Nelson Piquet and the local hero Michele Alboreto in his Ferrari. That's for 3rd and 4th position right now. So that is really quite a serious set of circumstances. Will Alboreto be able to play with his fuel consumption well enough not to run out of gas? Piquet and Alboreto.
You can see the Ferrari fans waving their Ferrari flags all the way around this circuit. Again, every last drop of their emotion, trying to spur on Alboreto somehow. Zach Speed back in the pits again, Jonathan Palmer. Again, every lap can be a testing program to learn something further about their car, engine, and gearbox. If you've been noticing the back of Piquet's car, off the top of the wings, you see a little bit of a trail, looks like smoke. What that is, there's so much humidity in the air here at the moment. That is the humidity in the air vaporizing as the car moves at well over 100 miles an hour, giving those little trails of what looks like smoke off the back of the Canon-sponsored wing.
You sometimes see it in an aircraft coming into land. If you live close by an airport, it's just a vapor trail and nothing to worry about for him. All he has to worry about is staying ahead of Alboreto and staying within some distance of the 2 leaders, in the hope, quite frankly, now that they have either fuel or mechanical problems, because he's not going to catch them up on the racetrack unless they do have troubles. There's another Ferrari flag stuck into a fence there close on the racetrack. As a Scotsman, John, I rather wish I had the concession for Ferrari flags here at this racetrack.
You can buy Ferrari everything around this racetrack. Jackie, books, hats, scarves, flags, of course, lunchbox, everything. It's Ferrari country. The factory being only 50 miles away, and Enzo Ferrari there, 88 years old, certainly watching his television, listening to Clay Regazzoni doing the expert commentary for the Italian TV here. Clay Regazzoni, the Swiss driver that was so much loved by the Italians while he was driving for Ferrari, just down the road from us here.
Well, he's certainly a man that would like to perform for the old boy right right now, Alboreto would love to go home with a good result. This man here, I think, is just holding on by the skin of his teeth.
This large chicane, you can't really call that a chicane. These sections of curves here, you can see that's where the old track was coming straight across the pits. Now you can imagine what speeds they would be doing now if that right, left, right was not put into the circuit to make it safer. And there we have the Ligier of Arnoux out of the race. Too bad Arnoux was doing quite well after several pit stops, but he is out.
No, that's not good for him.
He was in fifth position at that time.
The yellow flag there is to designate the fact that the car is rather close to the racetrack and could be a potential hazard. It doesn't intimate that there has been an accident unless it is waived. In this case, it's just a hazard, and I think you'll find that the marshals will push that car closer to the barrier and out of the way. There you see Nelson Piquet. He's coming up behind Jonathan Palmer again. I think Palmer seems to have gone back out on the racetrack. Yes, it is him. I think he'll respectively move out of the way if he can. Come on, Jonathan, have a little look in your mirrors. That's one of the most important elements of any race driver. It's difficult to see everything at the one time, but Piquet doesn't seem to be pressing him very hard.
Not really. Rear view mirrors, the first time rear view mirrors were ever used. In fact, the invention of rear view mirrors came out of motor racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway many years ago. They used to carry two people in the cars so that the mechanic was actually looking behind and being able to tell his driver who was coming up on him. But the innovation of a rear view mirror eliminated that necessity, and they went to a single cockpit and, of course, higher speeds. But the simplest thing may not be used by some drivers, Jackie.
Well, in this case, this man's not paying a lot of attention to his mirrors. He doesn't have to. Alain Prost is very comfortably in the lead at this time. I don't know whether I'm seeing double here, but it seems to me that there was a little more smoke behind his car. It may just be an illusion of our television monitor up here, but as he was accelerating out one of those slow corners, it seemed out of his left exhaust pipe there was just a little bit of smoke. But I may be seeing things. Alain Prost of France, world champion, reigning world champion, won on the road here last year, was then disqualified. Well-sponsored car, very well financed. Mansur Ogier from the Arab family of the Ogiers, very deeply involved with this team. Marlboro, of course, deeply involved also. The tag engine developed by them. So we have our leader, Alain Prost, still in the lead of the San Marino Grand Prix. In this Grand Prix, Alain Prost of France leads, Keke Rosberg of Finland is second place, and Nelson Piquet of Brazil is in third place. But not too far behind Piquet is the man you're looking at right now, who's Michele Alboreto of Italy. He seems to have lost a little bit of ground in Piquet. He's followed incidentally by another Italian, Riccardo Patrese, and then Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari. He's got himself into sixth position, which means world championship points for him. Now, Berger, incidentally, however, is catching Johansson rather quickly. Berger's in seventh position. Both of these drivers are one lap down. But there you see Michele Alboreto. He has lost ground, but keep in mind that this is almost a fuel consumption effort. They really are having to look after that. That's a very important element to this fuel consumption. You see the car in the background there, and this, of course, is our leader, Alain Prost, as he comes through there, driving this Marlboro-sponsored tag Porsche engine McLaren. McLaren been very successful over the years, have had some great world champions. Emerson Fittipaldi was a world champion for them. James Hunt was a world championship for them. So was Niki Lauda and, of course, Alain Prost. It's been a highly successful team over the years.
Emerson Fittipaldi also.
Yes, I think I mentioned him right at the beginning. So I think that it's quite interesting to recognize that Bruce McLaren, of course, started this off. Alain Prost has not had the best season this year. He's had lots of problems. John Bisignano had the opportunity to ask him about those.
Alain, so far this year, McLaren has had some difficulties. Is the team as sharp as it has been after 2 world championships in a row?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to be competitive 2 or 3 years consecutively, especially when you are world champion. But I don't think the problem we have at the moment is the motivation problem. I think it's more a technical problem. It's more difficult to win a championship and to prepare next season. And the last 2 years we have been very competitive, and we had to change a lot of things on the car. And when you change a lot of things, you are in danger about the reliability of the car. That's what happened the first race in Rio, and after that I think we have done a very good race in Spain, but we had, I think, a little bit less experience than the others this year, and we've made small mistakes. But I think everything's going to be very good in the second part of the season. If I can get some points the first part of the season, I still get a chance to be world champion this year.
Alan Prost drives up the hill and down the other side. He must be now conserving fuel. He must be conserving rubber. He must be getting informed by his pit what his lead is over his own teammate. I should think team orders have now been instilled in both of them so that they will know that they should not climb over each other. That's terribly important. So Alan Prost is in the lead of the San Marino Grand Prix here in Imola, in Italy, and we'll be right back. Signano back at Imola for the Grand Prix of San Marino. You're looking at a pit signal right now. It tells there are 7 laps to go of this race, 61 laps in total, 60 racing laps, and let's give the top 6 here. You've got Alan Prost in the lead, Keke Rosberg is second, Nelson Piquet is third, Michele Alboreto, who you're looking at now, is fourth, Riccardo Patrese is fifth, and Stefan Johansson bringing up 6th place in the second Ferrari. Both Ferraris running, which is very impressive. Of course, both McLarens are running in first and second position, which is pretty impressive.
There is a little gauge inside these cars, and it's connected to a computer, and all it shows is either plus or minus. And what that tells the driver is that he's either ahead or behind on his fuel consumption relative to his speed, weather conditions, and the amount of time left on the circuit and the mileage left on the circuit. The drivers must watch this gauge constantly, and they have to rule themselves very strictly to follow that gauge. Right now, there are no real tight battles going on for the major front positions. So the question is, certainly that Prost is able to run into the plus, where he has extra fuel. He can go ahead and run his own race. He has a good lead over Keke Rosberg, certainly one that will allow him to be very conservative on his fuel and not let the same mistake happen last year and not run out, but to run so low that it can cause him the victory.
Here's a great battle going on with Stefan Johansson and Gerhard Berger. Berger's trying to get himself in there to the points, the championship point standing. He's in 7th position. He's trying to find a way past that red Ferrari as they go over the hill. We're going for that now. He's coming behind Martin Brundle in the Data General Tyrrell. He may move out of the way to let those two through, but of course he's racing. Stefan trying to find a way through there, not getting it as they go into the chicane. Accelerating away now, and Berger is keen to get a World Championship point, and he's coming alongside. Can he do it? He's blocked off. He probably will. He's done it. Gerhard Berger takes that 6th position over from Stefan Johansson with only 5 laps to go, and then the smoke coming out of the car there. He's had a trouble. He's had a problem. He must have missed the gear changes all over the racetrack. Johansson trying to recapture this situation. Keep in mind that Johansson was the hero of the hour last year by trying to win this race after the fuel-starved cars ahead of him had dropped out. The blue flag was waved there so that they could see that another car was behind. Martin Brundle moves over. Berger now has a clear track ahead of him. Johansson loses a little bit in adhesion through there. the car lost a lot of grip, and he lost a lot of road.
Remember, Jackie, also going back to last year, that confrontation between Stefan Johansson and Berger in the Australian Grand Prix, where the two of them touched wheels, of course, right towards the end of the event also, and Berger was the loser of that particular ongoing battle. But it has to be very sweet for him to come right by Stefan Johansson in the closing laps of the San Marino Grand Prix. Berger, again, from Austria, one of the young lions, and Stefan Johansson certainly considered one of the young lions from Sweden.
Well, just as an update to show you what's in here is this pass taking place. Berger slips inside in traffic. Now, he snookered this man in the red Ferrari. He really put him into a situation where he could not retaliate. I call that good motor racing. That, to me, is exactly what it's all about. He then got inside Martin Brundle, and he certainly did a good job. Alain Prost, in your picture right now, he's taken advantage over Nelson Piquet, incidentally, who's his only serious threat. He's now 33.2 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet. Between those two drivers, clearly, however, is his own teammate, Keke Rosberg. But Rosberg surely will have been given instructions that he will not overtake his teammate. At this close to the end of a race, it would not be sensible for them to start fighting each other with only 4 laps to go.
Jackie, think back, though, the McLaren team has always been proud of the fact that they do let their drivers race each other. Remember in Zandvoort last year, where Prost and Niki Lauda, even when the championship points, world championship points, were very much in contention, they were racing tooth and nail right down to the checkered flag with Lauda coming through for the victory.
Yes, but I think at the present time, I doubt very much whether that will occur. There you see the car of Keke Rosberg, and there's Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet has closed right up on Keke Rosberg. Now there is drama. As I told you, don't switch off your sets, because here in ESPN you're going to have a very exciting end of the race. Look at Nelson Piquet. He's a wise man. He's looking for world championship points. He already won the Grand Prix of Brazil. Now he wants to pick up 6 more points for the world championship. That could be his way of doing it. All he has to do is pass Keke Rosberg. Does Rosberg have enough fuel to retaliate? Does he have enough tires to retaliate? That looks like Cinzani pulling off the racetrack, another retiree, and they are definitely closing up. They only have a few laps to go, probably 5 laps to go in this race right now. 4 laps to go, and it's this close.
And of course, these points to Nelson Piquet would tie him in the World Championship in first place with Ayrton Senna.
And he's in fact only got 3 laps to go, and he's right up behind him. He's in a position to do this as they come in almost in front of the grandstand here. You'll see the excitement growing. The Honda engine is well known to have more power than the Tag McLaren. Whether he can use all of the boost to accelerate and pass is another matter, because every time you turn the boost up on those turbocharged engines, you use more gas. And here we see a great battle coming here. He's overtaking. Can he do it? He's at the outside.
Not there.
Is he good? No, he doesn't. He chooses not to do it right there. He chooses not to do it.
He's certainly putting the pressure on Keke Rosberg going up the hill. They're coming up on some back markers. That's the Ferrari of Stefan Johansson. And in front of that Ferrari is the USFNG Aeros car. You don't know which particular one that is because they're running in 9th and 7th position, but Keke Rosberg has pulled away from him, and then under the brakes, up comes Piquet.
Traffic could play an important part here. Can he get past? He won't get past because remember, they're having a race of their own. He's pulled across. He's got past one. Mark Seurer's gone in, but can Piquet join him? He's joined him. And Alboreto's in the pits. Michele Alboreto in 4th place is coming into the pits. He's in trouble, coming in for tires, it looks like.
He has his visor up, Jackie. He doesn't look like he's in a huge hurry.
No, the engine's still running, though. But he's got a problem. The engine's down. He's in confab with his engineer. He's certainly in conversation. It's 11, 12 seconds going by here. And we've only got 2 laps. The big battle is outside, but we're with Italian television right now. And look at them. It's finished.
Could he be out of fuel? Do you think that, again, San Marino has eaten up all the fuel of these leading cars?
I don't think he would have come into the pits if he were out of fuel. I think he's got another problem. But while in the meantime this battle is going on out there, the Italian television are staying with Michele Alboreto, who looks like he's merely having major conversations. They're taking the body panel off. I'm afraid this is the penalty we have to accept, and there the battle still goes for second place, and he's out of petrol. He's out of gas.
Keke Rosberg, definitely Keke Rosberg pulling off.
I think he's out of gas. Now, Keke Rosberg uses up more gas than Alain Prost because Alain Prost is softer on the gas pedal. We've only got 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go, and he's taking his helmet off. He's stepping out the car. No, he's still got his helmet on, but look at that. Hands in the air. What can I do? Alain Prost, the leader. He's on his second last lap. He's coasting. And Alboreto has got out of his car. Now, you saw Alain Prost looking in his mirror there. You saw his head just touching over. When he comes round 2 more corners, he will only have 1 lap to go. Remember how tight it was last year? His team will be now signaling him to go very slowly.
3.1 miles to go as we cut back to the Ferrari pit. Alboreto out of the car. But it's still 2.5 miles to go for Alain Prost to have victory here at the San Marino Grand Prix.
And there he is, coming around the fastest part of the racetrack. He's certainly not doing 200 miles an hour this time. He's now coming to where his own teammate ran out of fuel. He's going to accelerate out of here. He will unquestionably see the car parked on the left-hand side as he goes round the track.
I didn't see any misfiring. If the surge of fuel was that low in the point where Keke Rosberg going out up that hill, you should have seen some fire coming out of the exhaust, but he went up it very cleanly.
Alain Prost looks like he's going to win his 22nd Grand Prix.
Getting closer to your record, Jackie.
Well, I can't. Oh, and there's somebody else out of gas. And here's the guy, Patrese, who was up to 4th position. Ricardo Patrese, we're looking at a replay from last year. Alain Prost still on the gas and still going well.
Hold on, Alain.
He's only got 2 corners to go.
I bet you he does not do a cool-off lap, Jackie. I bet you he stops just after the finish line, even if there is a penalty for it.
He's got 2 or 3 corners still to go. I'm giving him the benefit of this. He's obviously very light on the gas right now.
He's moving the wheel, Jackie. He's taking the fuel.
He's out of gas!
No!
I cannot believe it! We're here! Look at him!
He's shaking it.
He's trying to get
it off the fuel.
I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Gerhard Berger's slow also.
He's going to do it. He's only got 2 corners.
Come on.
2 corners. This is exciting.
Last year they had to push the car for second place.
I don't believe this.
200 yards.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Coasting.
And he's done it. Alain Prost, with enormous imagination, with good intelligence, he's getting out of the motor car. He sure as hell is hoping that it's heavy enough to pass the regulations. Fist in the air with victory. Well, now, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. The McLaren mechanics haven't arrived yet. The officials are there. Nobody wants to touch the car because it's got to be weighed. But it looks to me that Nelson Piquet has taken 2nd position. He's crossed the line. In 3rd position, who knows at this moment? Everybody is concerned that Alain Prost's car should not be touched or tampered with. The Ferrari mechanics, everybody's around there. The police are trying to move the enthusiastic. Nelson Piquet's in trouble. No, he's finished. He's finished, of course.
He's crossed the line.
He's crossed the line. He's on his cooling down lap.
He may have to walk back to the pits, but he has crossed the line.
So there you see, Berger is in 3rd place. Stefan Johansson is in 4th place. Rosberg is given 6th place. Patrese is given 6th place. So Rosberg's in 5th, and Patrese is in 6th. What an amazing finish. This each year has been a cliffhanger. I don't think you could ever have watched a motor race with more excitement than this. And here you see the pictures and replay of Alain Prost. He's out of gas. Now he's trying to move his fuel because these are bladder fuel tanks. There's sponge in there to try and absorb impact. You see Berger behind him not wanting to pass, incidentally, at the end because he would not then have to do an extra lap. So he accelerated there. He then came to the end again. As he went round the corner, the fuel came to a dry-up situation. Look, Berger nearly passes him, and Berger very wisely stays behind him. Great presence of mind. Had he passed Prost, he would have had to do 1 more lap. Very wise for a young man.
Good to read the rule books.
And there is the car being pushed back by the officials. Well, you've seen an exciting ending to the San Marino Grand Prix. The race is not over in our coverage from ESPN. We'll be right back. San Marino. We're exhausted. I don't know about you, but let me just read the top 6 right out right now. Alain Prost wins the race. Second place is Nelson Piquet. Third place is Gerhard Berger. Fourth was Stefan Johansson driving the Ferrari. In fifth place, Keke Rosberg, who ran out of gas. In sixth place, Riccardo Patrese also ran out of gas. Now that brings the World Championship standings. Still, it's Senna in the lead because he has an equal lead with Nelson Piquet with 15 points. In third place, or taking up the second best score, in fact, is Alain Prost with 13. Keke Rosberg has 8 points. Nigel Mansell and Gerhard Berger have 6 points apiece. That is, in fact, what the World Championship looks like right now. And there you see the car coming round the racetrack, in fact, with a driver whose car has run out of gas. I think it looks like Patrese, does it?
Nelson Piquet.
It's Nelson Piquet, so he must have stopped out there.
Well, you saw him going very slowly around up the hill on the backside of the circuit. I just want to give the other finishers. We have Thierry Boutsen in 7th, Martin Brundle in 8th, Mark Surer, that makes both USFG Barclay Arrows cars finishing. In 9th position, Mark Surer, and 10th, Michele Alboreto, who, of course, did so well all throughout the race for Ferrari. That is a view of Martin Brundle there in his black Data General driver suit. Alain Prost being interviewed by Italian press.
Well, he'll be receiving that big bottle of Montesando a moment. There, in fact, is Martin Brundle. Now, we'll be leaving you just for a moment, but don't leave us. We'll be coming back from the comments of Alain Prost, our winner. We'll be right back.
You here at Imola, were you able to run as hard as you wanted to throughout the whole race?
I have driven very, very hard the first part of it, especially after my pit stop, because I ran a very low boost, but I was very hard on braking and on tires, and the car was fantastic after I changed the tires. But 20 laps before the end, I went a little bit slow because of fuel, but I was very confident because the computer showed me I was in advance all the time.
Now, in the second half of that last lap, you must have been having a nightmare in that cockpit. The engine misfiring. What were your thoughts at that time?
My engine, I think, was not very good in the straight, but I was sure that I could win anyway, because if I run very low boost, and I think Nelson and Keke run much more boost than me at the beginning of the race, so I was quite sure that the fuel consumption would decide which driver is going to win. And I was confident also because my car was perfect, and I've seen that Keke blistered the rear tires much sooner than me, and everything was perfect. I mean, I had to win, or if there was not a big difference about the fuel consumption, I had no problem at all.
Your confidence must have been shaken a little bit when you came around the corner and saw that Keke probably ran out of fuel.
I didn't see that. I didn't see Keke. I think I was very... I kept my concentration, but I was very surprised. I was running out of fuel 3 or 4 corners before the end, because I said the computer showed me 3 liters advance. But at this time I said, shit, again, I'm going to lose this Grand Prix. I lost last year for 2 kilos less, and about fuel, that's why, you know, I was always against this regulation, because you can lose or win because 1 liter or half liter, but it's I was lucky today, and I think it's good for me.
And the weight on the car is okay?
Yes, I ask very soon. It's okay.
Congratulations.
John, thank you very much, and my personal congratulations, of course, to Alain Prost, who's creeping up in the World Championship Grand Prix victory table. I think a well-balanced race by him, a very intelligent race. He was a deserved winner, particularly after last year's problems, where, of course, he was disqualified. Now, of course, there's much more motor racing to take place here on ESPN. Our next Grand Prix will be the Belgium Grand Prix on Memorial Weekend on the 25th of May. Watch for us there. And then next weekend, we've got the Winston 500, the stock car race from Talladega. So, in fact, that's going to be a bit of hot motor racing here on ESPN. Now, of course, this Grand Prix of San Marino was won by Alain Prost. Nelson Piquet was second. Gerhard Berger was third. Stefan Johansson was fourth. In fifth position, with no gas in the tank, stopped out on the racetrack, was Keke Rosberg. And Riccardo Patrese did exactly the same thing, but he was credited because of the laps he had done in sixth position, picking up a World Championship point. The San Marino Grand Prix has been brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood Age, for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by BF Goodrich TA radios, built for you to take on the road. This is Jackie Stewart along with John Bisignano. We're hoping that you'll join us again for more motor racing coverage on ESPN.